Well, I think it's time we explore some of the tools that we will use to draw and paint and also modify the existing image, and that might be a blank image like this one here. To that effect, we'll start looking at the icons we have here and some of the menus we have. Below the main menu bar, there are a couple of elements that will change depending on what tool you choose. So by default, I have the brush tool selected here in the floating tool palette, and that will give you the large airbrush. But when you click on that, it's really a menu of many other predefined brushes and other tools for brushes. And you can also get the similar or same identical menu here if you right click on this tool. The brush tool, right click, will give you the same thing here. But you also have a few others. You have the browse media. This allows you to access images or rather brushes that you have stored away, and so the program comes with many of them predefined already, and you can easily create your own categories and start saving those brushes there too. So for instance, here's a hot dog, and as you draw with that, you will see a hot dog. Now if you want that floating panel to stay up, you click here and that will mark it as pinned down, and so you can always go back to that. Here are some wildflowers, and you see this is an animated brush which contains multiple images, right? And then there are some others here which maybe only have one image in it, right? So many different ways to draw with this, many different brushes and paints and styles and effects, and I'll just let you explore and play with that. You know, some smearing effects and some really cool stuff here. Pastels, some of them will bring back the paper that's in effect there. Let's bring some other colors. There you go. Alright, so that's the basics of just starting to explore the existing brushes that are out there. There are some stencils. Some of these you'll use for special effects, some of them you'll use for painting, to creating some really cool textures. There are more, and there's a few icons up here. Now if you look at this one, PRV, that's the preview, and with preview you'll be able to see an image where your cursor goes, an image that represents the image that's in your brush, but you will not see that unless it is a custom brush. So some of the brushes that you have here, let's try the hot dog. Yeah, that one carries an image which is tracking your mouse, so to speak, here, right? But then there's others that will not, and they are either generated with smaller images that we call internal images, or internal brushes, and those you can actually see here, the shapes. Those are small image shapes, small brushes, and internal brushes typically are the ones that use those. So when you select something like this here, you will not see it track a small the image that's attached to it. We don't do that for internal brushes. You've probably seen the other videos that give you an intro to the different brush types, and you can actually see that here when you click on settings, and let's pin that one down too. You have even at this level you have 3 different types of brushes. You have an anti-aliased pen, and that one kind of algorithmically generates the image, and there are a few things it does do and a few things it doesn't do. And then there are the internal brushes, and those are the ones that will use the shapes that you have here. Right, so with that you can work with the brush with the shapes to get the specific image that you want, but you don't see that floating around with you. That's reserved for the custom brushes, the 3rd type here. So custom brushes are the ones that will have a fairly large image, sometimes much larger even than your paint canvas, right? So you can have in the image, in the brush, you can have an image that is very large. In fact, let me just pick one up right now here. I'm going to go with the custom brush tool, select something like this big, and now I'm carrying that through the brush, right? And it's still doing the same transformation and following the brush and so on as the other one did before. So that's what the custom brushes do, is you can work with very large images that you that you use through the brush. You can stamp them down, you can do all sorts of really cool stuff with that. A couple of other, let's go back to the hot dog here, a couple of other brushes or shortcuts here. So that's a preview to enable or disable the preview of that brush image. of the custom brush image. There is also some stuff relating to the tablet as to whether the pressure is going to be used, and I'm not using a tablet right now, so it's not going to make a difference. I'm using the mouse. But if you had a drawing tablet, you would be able to see it control the size based on the pressure that you apply. You can see that here too in the preview, in the brush settings that you get from here. You get the size, you get the opacity, and then also the angle, if it's following the angle. Now that's something you can see with the custom brushes. Let's say if I go like this, and you're going to allow the custom brush to be transformed, it's now doing the transformation based on which way you're drawing. Now it's a little bit jittery because you have very fine motion in your hand as you're moving around, and so to kind of smooth that out, there's an option here, S for smoothing, right? Apply smoothing to the pointer's motion. So when you do that, it's a little bit more consistent, it's less jittery. And so that's one of the new features also, I think, in version 8. Let's see, what else do we have here? There's a tablet options here. You can perhaps configure your tablet. That's something that we're just adding. I don't think we have released that in version 8 yet, but that's going to come up in a subsequent update. And then there's also an icon for, oh, this one is really cool. That's a symmetry tool. So there's a variety of symmetrical painting options, kaleidoscopes, and also the horizontal and the vertical mirror. Those two, the horizontal and vertical mirror, they apply on the current image even, not just on what you're about to draw next. So you can actually use that if you have already an image, and let's say you start with an image that's in matte mode, something like this, just on the right side here, and then maybe something else, and something yet different again, right? And you want to mirror that horizontally, so that the right side flips over to the left side as well. So you do a horizontal mirror, and there you have it symmetrically mirrored. And then you can also do the vertical at the same time. And not only that, you can also go and paint now in that mode. So you see some pretty wacky stuff coming out of that as you're painting in mirror mode. Now that applies to many different brushes, not just the ones I'm using right now here, but also some others. Particle brushes, for instance. If you enable particle brushes, what you're painting here will apply in mirrored mode on the other quadrants as well. And same thing with, let's say, what do we have here? Bristle brushes. I think these will also, yep, and will also smear or apply the bristles in the quadrants. And then you have orbicals, same thing. So let's say we set the brush size a little bit bigger so we see that better. See what I'm doing here is going to be, I'm drawing in the upper right quadrant, but it's applying it all over the place, right? And then even the foliage. Now the foliage has a post render, so it's applying it after that. And so if I'm doing a foliage like this here, the tree, after I let go, a split second later, you'll see the mirrored images there too. So if I select, let's say, a preset for a branch, and I draw that branch like this here, you don't see it mirrored quite yet. When I let go, there's a little bit more time for post render, and boom, after that it does the mirroring. So cool stuff with that, really. I mean, there's a lot of really cool effects you can create, and you can also have those animated. You know, you can create an animation. And I'll finish with just that. So I'll take this existing animation here, this existing image, excuse me, and I'll create an animation. And I'll create an animation that's, let's say, 99 frames long. That's a current copy of this image, right? And what I'll do is I'll rotate it, but with the mirror mode still enabled, right? If I wanted to turn mirror mode off, I would just clear the mirror flags here. So what I'll do instead, I'll leave it on, and I'll go to the timeline and say I want to rotate that image. So I'll go to the transforms. There it is, and there's a transform option where I can rotate the whole thing. Right. So now, right now, I have the timeline here. I'm going to go at the beginning of my animation. I want it rotated as it is, and that will be setting a key for that angle. For all of the parameters, not just the angle, but translation in X, Y, Z, and so on as well. And then I could have it maybe at a different position, and at a different scale, and at a different rotation angle. Right, and then I'll keyframe that for the last, at the very end here, for the last frame. So all of these parameters are shifting and rotating and changing size and so on. Now I'm going to apply that. Well, as it applies that, it's also throwing the mirror effect on it. That's still enabled. Right? And so now we have an animation of this sort. Right? And let's go see that. Alright, well that's it for this quick little demo. Now you see some parts, oh yeah, it's actually not it quite yet. You see some parts where it didn't finish the mirror, and I don't know exactly why. But what you can do is you can manually scrub through that to try to catch everyone, or you want to do it cleanly, you go to the filters, animated filter collection, and say apply mirror. That will just force every frame to be displayed and be subject to the mirror effect. Then you know you're going to have it a clean animation.